Well, welcome to Scale Smart Live. I am your host, Taja M. Graham. I am CEO and founder of OpsIQ, and we are super excited to have you here tonight. A little bit about OpsIQ. If you are a growth-minded founder and you are scaling and you are wondering to yourself, if I grew my revenues by double today, am I ready for that? This platform is for you. Please make sure to visit opsiq.biz, take our free assessment, and really get clarity and confirmation behind where really are you in growing and scaling your business. And we are here to help you in that in short form that will definitely make you feel more confident about that growth, right? But tonight, I am super excited for various reasons for the guests that we have here tonight. One, they are an outstanding marketing team and web developers. If you visit ops.biz, you will see their handiwork because they were the ones that created a stunning website. And I'm so grateful for them in that. But number two, this is a legacy, a father and son dynamic duo that are doing business in a really niche area of focus right now, but they look to continue to scale, which means what? They are subscribers of OpsIQ. So look at all the irony of tonight's conversation. But without further ado, I want you to meet the dynamic duo and team force behind Graviss Marketing. Welcome, Jonathan and JG, to Scale Smart Live.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. I said I didn't wear green. I feel kind of bad about it, but please bear with me.
Thank you for having us.
We always discuss green, and that's the money, right? There we go.
That's right.
Lead us to the pot of gold. But please introduce yourselves. Jonathan, please introduce yourself, and then JG.
I'm Jonathan. I started Graviss Marketing back in college. I was in my dorm room and had nothing better to do but to start a marketing company. So anyway, I decided to have my dad come in and do sales for me, and that's why he started working with me in the company.
Awesome. And JG, this face should be familiar to those that have been watching Scale Smart Live. Yeah. He is definitely a friend and someone that has been on the show to talk about all things sales. I love how he thinks about the discipline of sales. And tonight you'll hear a little bit more about that as it relates to the marketing and sales dynamic for your businesses. But JG, welcome back. Share a little bit more about you within Graviss.
Yeah, so I'm a 30-year veteran of the billboard business. So I've been in the advertising space for a lot of years. And as Jonathan said, he's not going to brag, but he was in college going through a double major, a minor. He ended up graduating a semester early while running the early days of this company. And really, I think my entrance into this was a conversation that he and I had. I was looking for what I wanted to do when I grew up. And Jonathan said, look, Dad, you've been telling me for all these years that billboard companies are great at advertising their clients, but they're not great at marketing their own services. Why don't we build Graviss Marketing to support that community and others? And let's do it together. And so I saw a lot of value in doing that and working with my son day to day. And it's worked out. I'm having a lot of fun.
I love that. You know, I'm big about the legacy. It's genuinely, I believe, what makes what you guys do so unique and the value of experiences, right? Jonathan, the fact that, you know, coming out of school and doing what you had already done and accomplished in life, but quickly identifying that this was the path you wanted to take as a visionary, as a founder, a CEO, and then how did that, you know, building that to where bringing in the expertise and all of the thought leadership that JG has aligned to building that business. Talk to me a little bit more as the founder, how that is really giving you confidence in having such talent already at the disposal to supporting the business.
It's been wonderful. The start was, it was really choppy at the beginning. I started it, I was like, okay, I need something better to do with my time than just sitting here and studying for my classes and all that. So as much as like that was all great, and I had a good time in school, I decided that I was going to have a hobby of just building websites for people. And once I got to a point of I didn't have I didn't have any time left to just go and sell and to do the operations. I needed somebody to do all the sales for me, and it's been great. Just I hired my dad to come and work for me and do all the sales for me. He's really been a fantastic asset, and he knows so many people, so many wonderful people. That's how you and I met, is through him, and it's been just a great journey through this. So I mean, just the dynamic it's been fun. Just every single day, I get to get on the phone and speak with my dad and tell him about the wonderful things we're doing with the company and the direction we're going, and just what my vision is for the company long term. So it's been a really
and look, I have been very open with Jonathan about what my strengths are, and I am first a relationship person, but I'm a bit of a unicorn in that I'm highly social, but I'm also highly analytical. So, you know, I'm not the visionary. I'm somebody that implements. I'm a doer, and Jonathan needs to stay a visionary. And I'll share one challenge that we've had. It's that, you know, I've been dad for 23 years to Jonathan, and you know, I remember I was in the car with my brother over Christmas, and Jonathan happened to call while we were on the phone and got done with the conversation. And my brother looked at me and he said, "Hey, you're going to need to change how you guys communicate, because that was a dad conversation. That was not a business partner conversation." And it was such an epiphany in the moment that, yes, we needed to change and reinvent how we communicate with each other. How are we going to work together? How are we going to define the roles?
Oh, wow.
So there was a lot to think about. And even as recently as last night, we were talking, and it took us a minute to kind of figure out, you know, what the real point of the conversation was. But we got there, and we're learning from each other, and we're learning with each other.
You know, I love that, because it does take being able to have that that interpersonal understanding, that emotional contact of saying, hold on, I got to change the dynamic here. You know, in order for him to be the visionary, you got to be receptive of what he is sharing and how he wants to see the business continue to grow and develop, right? And supporting that alongside. And, you know, I would imagine the naturalness of it is you want to be protective of his interests. And so therefore, in doing that, you know, that father figure sometimes will step in. But I love that emotional intelligence and just being able to say, hold on, let's reset here and think about this in the hierarchy and in the role support that Jonathan needs right now, right, as that visionary, and letting him spread his wings in leadership is very smart. And grateful that your brother and uncle, Jonathan, for that matter, recognized it and said, "This has got to happen."
Yeah. It was a pivotal moment, you know, for the company. And yeah, I'm grateful that my brother spoke up, but more grateful that Jonathan was receptive to the discussion about it.
Yeah, that is awesome. So we got a jam-packed topic here tonight, and I want to see the thought leadership from both sides play out here tonight. So our theme topic is why marketing feels inconsistent and how to align it with sales the right way. And why I love this so much is, if you were with us at the last Scale Smart Live, you had the chance to hear from a shared friend of ours, Elisa Blankenship, about all things in the conversion between marketing and sales and the accountabilities to the ROI, right? And now we can even deeper dive into this as it relates to how you guys see it from the standpoint of what you're doing in this space and in the dynamic. So, and Barrett, we're grateful to have you here tonight. So I'm glad that you are here on with us. But let's dive into our subtopics tonight and really be able to give in here. So subtopic number one tonight, I'm hoping it's going to come here on our screen. Inconsistent marketing is a system problem. Ooh, it is a systems problem. Jonathan, share for us how you see it playing when it comes to the marketing. You probably are going to share a lot with me because I'm probably disruptive in this place, but please tell us what you believe the systems problems are.
I think we're going to me. So I think business is about systems anyway, right? It's a series of systems that you combine to drive revenue and drive growth for your company. And marketing's no different. So really, there's got to be a system in place to work with sales and putting the channels together that are going to resonate for your company. And if you're not disciplined in spending time in sales and then spending time in marketing and making sure the two are aligned, you've got to bring in operations as well. So all three of them have to work together as a system to drive revenue growth.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Jonathan, from the standpoint of, first the marketing side of it, that would lead into what we hope are the abilities to convert to sales. Where do you oftentimes see the inconsistency of systems when it's relatable to marketing, to the marketing side of it?
From marketing to sales, the inconsistency between marketing to sales and the conversion. It's just
or the problems that you see happening on the marketing side that then become problematic in sales. Where do you see it play out most?
I see it mostly as marketing just being done as a checkbox rather than being done as a strategy, and it's primarily because if you do it as a checkbox, you don't get the sale, right? Versus if there's a strategy behind why you're doing the marketing, then you're more likely to get a sale. Right. And so I think most of the time we see a bunch of different businesses that will come to us and they'll say, hey, I really want these services from you guys, but there is no real reason why they want those services. So we have to sit there with them on a call or we go out to lunch with them or whatever it is and have the conversation. Hey, what is it about this that's intriguing to you? Why do you want to do this? What is your ultimate goal for this? And that helps them start thinking about their marketing and think about what it is that they want to come to market so that they can get the sale for their own business.
Yeah, I love lead with the strategy, the why behind, and then let the why are we going to do this, lead to what are the tools, the marketing tools, because it could be all kind of different outlets, right, in marketing that then provide the outcome for it. So I think you're right. The checkbox mentality will not lead to the conversion if you don't understand why you're doing those things. But let me ask you this, Jonathan, how frequently should a business be evaluating that strategy, and what are then the tools or the metrics that should be used accordingly?
I guess it really depends. So I like to think of things as goals and milestones. It's the milestones that you accomplish that will get you to the goal that you ultimately want to accomplish. And so depending on how you, let's see, I'm trying to figure out how to put this into words for you. So depending on what those milestones are that get you to that goal, you really have to strategize and think about, okay, well, each milestone is its own strategy. And if I want to get more sales, for example, what do I need to do? So milestone 1, maybe it's detail out a social media strategy, right? That's maybe milestone 1. Milestone 2 could be, let's build out a website. Let's have a landing page for our social media campaign. And then step 3 could be it's the sale. That's the sale there. So I think it's just the silos. It's not the silos, but the different sequencing that gets you to the ultimate goal.
I love that. I love that. There was a question, JG, to you specifically. What is the biggest pillar first, sales or marketing? What would you suggest there?
Well, look, the reality is that in a sales-driven organization, sales is going to trump everything. But if you take a step back and look at it from 30,000 feet, the two have to really work together in lockstep. Sales can't do it without marketing. Marketing can't do it without sales. So it's not that one is a bigger pillar than the other. And the inconsistencies we see is the lack of communication between sales and marketing. If you're not jumping in and looking at your strategy, both for sales and marketing on a quarterly basis, then your business is going to suffer. Your team is not going to understand what the priority this quarter is and how we're going to achieve the goals. So alignment up and down the ladder is really important. The consistency between working with sales and marketing to drive the goal is important.
Yeah, that's a good point. They both have to complement each other. But as a founder, and Jonathan, I think you attest to this, which is why you brought on JG. Sales is the impetus of how you grow the revenue, right? Which then leads to the cash flow. So in most cases, that means sales has to be the focal, and marketing supports that accordingly, right? I mean, is that how you see it as founder, Jonathan? How's that for you?
Of course, yeah. So, I really think back to a meeting that I had. It was a lunch that I had, let's see, maybe over a year ago now. I met with another founder of another marketing company, and he sat down with me and he said, you really need to figure out, do you want to be running operations or do you want to be running sales? Yeah. And he said, you can't do both. And so you need to find that person that's going to be able to, actually it was over 2 years ago, find that person, right? Find the person that's going to be able to fill the role that you don't want to do because it's not your strong suit. So I really had to think about that. And maybe a couple months later, I called my dad and I had that conversation with him. I said, hey, I've really been thinking about this ever since that lunch. I've been thinking about, I need to find somebody who can do my sales. And I know that you're the most equipped person that I know to be able to do that. So would you be willing to do that for me? And he said, okay, well, let me think about that a little bit. And he came back to me and he said, I really didn't have to think about that. I'll do it. I'll do your sales for you. And we can work out some sort of partnership agreement. And so we did, and it's been prosperous.
I think as it relates to Ops IQ, what has been brought to the table is that as we scale this, we need to start looking at some supporting roles. So if I handle sales and marketing, it's hard for me to also create the content. By the same token, Jonathan in operations is being pulled in a bunch of different directions as both CEO and as the head of operations. So we really, as we scale, what Ops IQ has taught us is that we need to be very deliberate with the plan on who we're going to hire next and what role they fill and what bandwidth is that going to create. In Jonathan's case, it can create some bandwidth to continue to learn the sales process and how to navigate it, because he's going to need to know that on his own. And that's the beauty of this. I get to, help teach this.
And I love that, because you have to, as founders and business owners that are really looking to scale, look ahead, right? And I'm grateful that you guys recognize the platform Ops IQ as that tool that you can use to kind of forecast your future, be it in talent, be it in tech stack, in capital readiness, whatever that thing is, that you can find that and get that clarity in how you're going to tactically handle this as you move forward. Oftentimes, we find that a lot of founders find themselves becoming a little bit handicapped or paralyzed by the overwhelming pressures of the founder dependency. And I love the fact that you guys are approaching it now so that you're prepared for it as you move forward. Identifying who are the right talents we need as we look ahead to the future. What are those roles and where does it best make sense? I love that you guys are already thinking that way.
And Jonathan talks about it as foundation, right? That is, we are building the foundation now for the scalable success that we're going to see over the next several years. And, you can do it two ways. You can plan your work and work your plan, or you can commit to being a firefighter for the rest of your career. And nobody's got the bandwidth to be a firefighter that often. And so it's really, again, it goes back to Jonathan being the visionary for the company. He has to be the one to think and set that foundation, what that foundation looks like.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, let's go on to our next topic, because I know we've got a lot here tonight. So aligning marketing and sales around revenue. Let's talk a little bit about that. What does that look like for you, Jonathan, as you are for what is Graviss Marketing? How does that look as the founder with for Graviss Marketing? And then let's talk about it as to how JG we approach that for other clients that you guys serve within Graviss Marketing.
Hey, can we pop the question back up? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So the question is, let's see here, aligning marketing and sales around revenue. How does that look internally for Graviss Marketing?
So it's just the market. Okay, so we actually gave a presentation a couple months ago about this, and it was just about not operating in separate silos and having overlap and having communication between the two. And if you operate in separate silos, then there will be no revenue, right? But if you overlap the two and you decide that the two need to communicate every single day, then there will be a revenue growth, right? And it's sales asking marketing, hey, what marketing materials can you give me that will be able to create a path for the success that we want here, right? Like it's this client right here needs to see this. They're a visual person. They need to be able to see this collateral. Can you create this for us? And it's just having that conversation and just internally just creating that marketing material so that the sales team can do their job and sell. Mm-hmm. And the sales team can't do their job without the marketing team because they need the collateral.
Yeah. So within Graviss Marketing, Jonathan, based on your strategy for what you want to see in way of growth for Graviss, how does that strategy fit in then to what JG is responsible for, which is the conversion of sales? How does that look internally for Graviss? And then to JG, what is materially different, if anything, as to how you approach it for the client side?
I honestly I try to create something for him to look at, right? It's visual. And also we'll have a conversation about it. We'll prep before we do things. Like if he has a sales call that he's about to take and he already did his research about the client, he'll hop on a call with me and we'll talk about the client. We'll talk about here's what I see from an overview of what they already have in place, and here's what I think that they could use. But have the conversation. And he already has the background, right? It's just preparing for that and having the information already at your disposal so that whenever you have that conversation, it just flows out.
Okay. So JG, from where you sit now, you're the sales side of the camp. Is there any material difference that you would recommend to a client as they are coming onboarding with Graviss Marketing as to the approach or the alignment?
No, I think we've got to run our company. If we're going to be the experts, we've got to run our company in a way that is consistent with how we're going to teach clients. And, you know, there certainly was some trepidation on my part because I have been building and leading and training sales teams for 25 years. So when I was on client calls, I was there to supplement and complement, you know, the account executive that I was working with. And what I realized is I needed to do a reset for myself. Now I'm both leading sales and doing sales effort, and I'm selling. We're teaching our clients how to do it. And so I've got to be very disciplined and on top of it to make sure that those are both aligned. But it's been awesome. I don't think I could advise. I mean, I could because I've been doing it for 30 years, but I think it'd be harder to advise clients if I wasn't also doing sales. I did a sales training engagement a couple of weeks ago with the billboard company. And, you know, it really was nice. We talked about what those cadences looked like, and they asked me really good questions about how we did it at Graviss Marketing. And what they found was it wasn't any different than the way I was teaching them.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So they can see it, you know, there's a lot to be said in leadership-led examples, right? That then can demonstrate this is why we approach it this way. I mean, I'll be quite frank with you. It is exactly the discipline I have to have with OpsIQ, right? Like we have to be very strong in the backbone of the operation side of the house, right? In order for there to be trust amongst those that are going to come in the platform, that they see that consistency relative. So I'm sharing with our team all the time, hey, let's be careful in new introductions of service offerings or things like that, because until we have consistency in what is the current offerings, we need to make certain that those deliverables are repeatable and stand up on their own and can happen consistently for success for our clients all the time. So that to be able to be that example, lead by first, that example makes a lot of sense. One of the questions, Jonathan, and I know it takes us a little off course, but the question was, how is it to be the leader of your dad as the CEO of the company? I don't want to.
It was confusing at first. Yeah, no, it was confusing at first because it was okay. I have to think back to when we first started. I was getting out of college. I was still not taking orders from my dad because we already switched, right? Once I went off to college, it was a switch from I'm your parent to I'm advising you on the decisions you're making. Versus when I graduated, it was I'm still advising you on the decisions you're making, but I'm still a fatherly figure, right? Because he's always going to be a fatherly figure.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then it's how do you turn that off, right? Once we're in business together, is how do you turn that off? Because he's not taking orders from me. We're as much as we're partnering on things. So it's how do you be a good partner, but at the same time, it's still my vision, right? And he doesn't lose sight of that. We have it's also a respect thing, right? It's respecting the fact that I understand that your vision is the vision for the company, right? And we have those conversations on a regular. What is the vision today versus what was it yesterday? It doesn't change, like the big picture doesn't change, but there's small pieces that change because every day is a different day and every new day is a new trial and tribulation.
And anybody that's a parent recognizes that you're on this journey of moving from dictatorship to advisement. And often that gets muddy as you get into high school and college. And so we had laid the groundwork for all four of our kids on what that was going to look like. And I do think that cut through some of what we would have had to go through had we not laid that foundation ahead of time. But you know, I'm dad and I'll always be dad. And the real honest answer about this story is that I told him it's great as a sideline business, but you need to go out and find yourself a sales job and learn the trade and work for a corporation. And, you know, my dad told me, look, fail fast, right? Be an entrepreneur, and it was a reminder for me to practice what I preach, in that I needed to listen closer to what Jonathan wanted to do. And I needed to trust that he was putting us on the right path. And both of those have proven to be true. So, you know, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes between us. And I think I'm a big believer in personality profiles, and you've got a work personality and a home personality. And at home, I'm the one that is in charge. And at work, I was a great sales manager because I always felt like I was a good number two. I'm not a high D. I'm not a, type A personality. I'm very comfortable being the number two in a room and letting somebody else take the stage. And I needed to recalibrate and apply that in this business, because the inclination is, because you've always been dad, you're going to stay dad. And that I'm shifting from personal to work.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, what I love about it though is, and I saw that in the comment, it's about respect, and respect is up and down the business dynamic, right? So respect from the highest of levels to those that are reporting to you, and vice versa. It is critical to have that, and it builds then the trust that you can be that reliant confidant that the founder can come to, or that that employee can seek out. to say, hey, I need that help and I need that support in my growth and in my development. So I'm glad that you're able to recognize that. It kind of reminds me, and I'm going to throw this movie out there, but I think it was called The Intern with Robert De Niro, right? Yeah, it kind of the switching of the table, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
But when you think about that movie and the outcome, right, it was really good to see that he could learn also from, I forget who the
Anne Hathaway.
There we go. Yeah, he could learn from her experiences and how she sees things. It's the diversity of thought, right? And vice versa for her. She was hearing of his experiences and what he had gone through. And that just definitely demonstrates, we got to have a diverse workforce in our businesses that include young, old, women, male, all of the dynamics, right, as we go. So, but no, that's a very great point. Let's go to our last subtopic tonight, and we'll leave a little room here. So, clear positioning that protects pricing. I love that. I think that's JG. That's probably in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, look, your price, when you get an objection to price, oftentimes it's a smokescreen for you haven't uncovered what their true needs are, right? So if you do the right research and understand the market and the dynamics and how this solution needs to be positioned price-wise, you defend it by having a clear understanding of what the client's needs are and supporting the pricing with the benefit to the client, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's not about the widget I'm trying to sell for $10 a piece. It's about who has a need for that and why do they have a need for it, and is that the right product fit? And so if you walk down the benefits that a client agrees to, that oftentimes will support the pricing in a different way. Now, salespeople, by and large, want to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. So if they see an opening and they get pushback on pricing and they need the sale that week, it's a really easy thing to drop that price, but you don't have to. If you'll just take a step back and re-anchor in the benefits to the client, you'll overcome that objection much easier.
Yeah. This is a really good point. I've been reading a book recently called Ask Like an Auctioneer by Di Bondi, I think is her name. But she talks a little bit about this, right? Like auctioneers, if you've ever been to an auction, right? There's this, what I think with the way she classifies it is, this is our must-have price point on whatever the item of auction is, right? And anything below this, take it off the table, because we could do it. We could sell it somewhere else. We could make it happen and get what we need out of it. But, the importance is setting that price point to a zone that you almost freak out about, but it allows for you to see where people see that value. Value and worth are two different things, right? And we have to be able to understand how somebody values your product or service does not dictate what your worth is or what the product's worth is. It's just telling you what the market would bear. It's like selling a house. People start, with a price tag on their home and say, oh, it's worth $1 million. But the market is going to suggest, your realtor will say, well, the market suggests this, and to your point, somebody will buy it for $1 million because they see that value proposition at that price point. So understanding the difference between the two is, I think, very valid, but understanding where your bottom line is and saying, yeah, no, we'll take it off the table to you because you don't understand the true value of it. As a salesperson, you got to be able to walk away and say, it's okay. This isn't for you. This is clearly for someone else. And the other thing that I loved about this book, if you haven't gotten it, is, and this really resonated with me, the market is bigger than the room that you're in. Understanding
That's
that,
such
right?
a good line.
Yeah. The market is bigger than the room. Is a constant reminder to me not to just settle for what is the value that someone would dictate my product or service to be. So I really appreciate that, setting that price and sticking to what you know it needs to be. It definitely speaks to that. So,
and Taja, really, it goes back to what we led the hour with, which is systems, right? There is a system for pricing. There's a system to marketing that. There's a system to selling that. And as you join those systems together, that's where the magic happens with revenue and with client satisfaction, really. So it's systems brings it back together.
It's
absolutely.
also, I think it's also just reminding your clients or reminding whoever's buying whatever it is you're selling that oftentimes it's not about like it's expensive or whatever. It's the investment, right? You're investing in this because the value of the product. And so for a while, I was we actually had a conversation about this like last week, talking about the value of things. It's not about how expensive it is. It's shifting that mindset and realizing that there's a value in that because it's an investment. You're investing in the future of your company. You're investing in whatever that is. And so like that was part of just adopting that as like a system for us, is just systematically remembering or systematically using that that mindset.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, Jonathan, I think what oftentimes gets lost is there's one variable of you're buying a product or the service. It's another to what the outcome of that is, right? Because that's really what the return on the investment is about, right? So, you know, in the case for you guys being subscribers to OpsIQ, I always say I want our subscribers to walk away with, I want those members to walk away with feeling confidence and clarity, right? And their capacity, they can see their capacity has changed since they've been within the platform, to when they, you know, say, oh my gosh, I'm getting 2 or 3 hours of my time back, or I'm able to build out that vision. Those outcomes become the value. The outcomes become then the investment. It was worth the investment because I did get that return. These are the things that this service or product lend to me in getting those returns. So when you can really focus there on what are the deliverables, as we call them, or those outcomes, it makes a huge difference. And that's really what you're selling. You're selling the outcomes, not necessarily just the product or service itself. Yeah.
And you need to define that on the front end before they sign a contract.
Yeah. Be clear in setting those expectations, right? Yeah. So, and in doing that, it definitely then limits the confusion behind, well, I thought I was buying this. No. This is what we told you it was going to do and what it should deliver on. And it keeps everybody hyper-focused on making sure that outcome happens. Absolutely. Yeah. And the more across the team dynamic that you share that, not just within the sales departments, right? But even in those that are delivering on that service, you know, so if you're in manufacturing, whoever is actually producing the widget or the product, right? And understanding that at the end of this thing needs to do this is very critical within the business as visionaries and as founders. That is our responsibility to our teams, is to make sure they understand at the end of the day, this is what we're to deliver. This outcome must happen. And when it doesn't, then that's when we need to come back to the table and say, what happened here that it didn't deliver? That's
a gift and you've got to ask for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So yeah, definitely don't forget to like and follow us. We love to have you guys a part of not only this conversation tonight, but future conversations as we go. So we got 5 more minutes here, and I am loving this conversation. I feel like we will be having a part 2 to this tonight. You know, as we address what are those outcomes and the themes of deliverables that as a founder, Jonathan, you are constantly looking for and measuring for your business growth. What are things that come to mind that you say, you know, at this stage of where we are for Graviss Marketing, these are the outcomes or the deliverables that I want to make happen or meet in order for us to succeed?
Good question. It's not only, you know, I'm kind of thinking about like revenue, for example, is obviously something like you think about the goals of revenue goals. And That's one thing that we think about often. We'd always talk about, okay, like right now we're nearing the end of Q1. Did we meet our Q1 goal? Now, what is it for Q2? What is that goal? So I think that would be a good first one. And the other two, I'm not sure. JG and I, we talk about this often, and he might have an idea of a couple other things we talk about since it's more of a partnership for us. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I need you to restate the question, Taja.
Yeah. So there's one thing to look at it in way of revenues, right? That is definitely leading, lagging indicator as to the health of the business. But what are other areas that you guys are measuring to ensure the outcomes that you want for the business growth?
Yeah.
What are other metrics that you guys are looking at?
I would say operations too.
What, Jonathan?
The right foundation, the operations too. That'd be another big piece.
Yeah, I mean, look, it depends on which service line they're in our business. You know, for web design, it's have we delivered the pages? Are they visually appealing? But then beyond that, it's how is it actually performing? And we try to set, again, to Jonathan's point, we try to set that table ahead of time. Hey, how are you going to be measuring the success? Are you trying to drive, web visits, lead conversions? What is that metric? By the same token, we do SEO, and so reporting is a big part of that in understanding, where do you rank in the searches? How are you being organically found? It's a little different in marketing. It may be something tactical like a brochure or a product offering that goes out. Does your team like it? Do your team's clients find it appealing? Is it doing its job? Sales training is a little bit easier in that you want to tie it to revenue. So there's a revenue performance jump when you get done training. But we try to have our clients fill out surveys. We try to capture that feedback to make sure that we can cross-check that with what we found in discovery to make sure that that's in alignment. So again, planning your work and working your plan, make sure you're asking the right questions in the CNA. And then in the feedback loop post-campaign, you got to address the same things. How did we actually perform to it?
Yeah, absolutely. This has been an amazing show. I'm so grateful to have Graviss Marketing here tonight. More importantly, supporting what has been the visual of all things Ops IQ. I couldn't be more ecstatic. And also to that effect that they are product users of Ops IQ and helping them to build the foundation that Jonathan is looking for the long-term growth of his business. So I thank all of those that attended tonight. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks with another episode of Scale Smart Live. And again, thank you to Graviss Marketing for being our guest tonight.
Of course, thank you.
Thanks.